Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, Scott the Cow Guy Shalady.
Good morning.
Fox Business regular. And mentioned this before, but it's worth another mention. Jason Riley's most excellent piece in the Wall Street Journal on Coney Barrett's kids and the left's unhealthy interest in them. Not the 5 biological kids, the 2 kids that she and her husband adopted from Haiti. One in the aftermath of the 2010 earthquake in Haiti that claimed 250,000 lives, displaced another 1.5 million Haitians. The other from a Haitian orphanage. John Peter was the young man that they adopted from a Haitian orphanage. Coney Barrett spoke about the adoptions at a talk she gave at the Notre Dame Club of D.C. last year after being seated on the 7th Circuit. And she talked about adopting internationally, she and her husband, because the bureaucracy of trying to adopt domestically, which is a customary lament. And she said there's so many children in need. Vivian, her daughter, when she was 14 months old when she came home, and she couldn't make any sounds at that point, Coney Barrett recalled, nor could she pull herself up to a standing position as she was wearing 0 to 3 month clothing, even though she's 14 months old, because she was so malnourished. She'd been so sick she hadn't had a lot of practice making sounds, and she hadn't spoken a lot. But today, Vivian is incredibly athletic now, and trust me, the speech has not been a problem, ACB joked. I was looking at her the other day at the gym and just thinking what a miracle she is, and how strong she's become. Jason Riley writes, most reasonable people would agree that Barrett's decision to adopt one sickly orphan and another following the worst natural disaster in Haiti's history isn't merely admirable but heroic. But most people does not include Democrat senators and Democrat and basically identitarian leftist academics like Ibram Kendi, who've attacked Coney Barrett on just that issue, the adoption of 2 Haitian kids who they've given a life in America that is unimaginable in Haiti. It's really one of the most remarkable things, accusing her of everything and her husband of everything from being white colonizers to essentially human traffickers. It's just remarkable.
Sorry, I can't say I'm excited, but I'm very interested to see how they try to denigrate her, really. I mean,
T-minus 11 days, October 12th,
right.
The confirmation hearings start. And bring your worst. I mean, I've said from the beginning, bring your worst, Kamala and Corey and Sheldon Whitehouse and Amy Klobuchar. Redo the Kavanaugh hearings, but make it about human trafficking and her religion and everything. Do it. Go ahead.
Do you think the American people have forgotten? Because I was living in London, and I was obsessed with it. And I got to tell you, I'll never forget the fact that I asked myself, does Kamala Harris have a father, a brother, a son, a husband? Because you couldn't be doing that if you did. You couldn't.
Well, you could, because she did, and this is where, these are just individuals who are means to their political ends, and that's how they treat people as a general rule. That's what you saw with Brett Kavanaugh. That's what you'll see with Coney Barrett, and I think she will present remarkably well, just as she did during her 7th Circuit confirmation hearing. For more on that, we're pleased to be joined by Olivia Perez-Cubas, who is the director at Winning for Women, former media director for Senator Marco Rubio's presidential campaign. Olivia, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So, there was this discussion. It's sort of past post at this point, but discussion at the outset of this nomination. There's no need to have a confirmation hearing. It's not constitutionally required. The Republicans could just move to vote up her nomination, but they're going to go ahead with the confirmation hearing. I think that's smart, and I think the American people should hear from Coney Barrett, and they should see Coney Barrett interact with those detractors on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think once you hear from her, we had that great visual over the weekend of her walking out of her house with her beautiful family. And once you hear from her, once you see her and her family, it's hard to argue against the kind of judge that she would be. And, as you mentioned, I currently work for Republican Women's Organization, and just immediately, once it was clear she was the front runner of the president's shortlist, the attacks that we saw her way was just absolutely disgusting from everything. And you touched on most of this, but from everything about her faith, her family, her adopted children. She's been compared to the Handmaid's Tale, or, quote, the woman who hates your uterus. And I think most recently we saw someone say that, can she be a good mom or can she be a good judge because she has a successful career? And it's just absolutely disgusting. And I think the funny part is that these are the attacks that come from the left, from the party that claims to be pro-woman and the party that claims to be tolerant. And I think it's just the ultimate hypocrisy. And I'm excited to see how it all plays out, and I think it'll be on full display.
It's interesting you bring up that she is a successful professional. She is a mom with a lot of kids that she's raising as well. And it calls to mind something that a friend of mine, Mary Helen Fiorito, who's at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, said in a comment in a New York Times column after her nomination, which is the way that Ruth Bader Ginsburg provided a model that says you can do this, you can be a female attorney, you can be a female judge, you can be a female Supreme Court justice. I mean, she wasn't the first, but throughout her legal career, she was somebody who that was, at the tip of the spear in terms of women and the law. And Fiorito said, it's the same thing with Amy Coney Barrett. She's saying you can be this too. And this time is to say, and especially in 2020 America, is you can be a successful attorney, judge, you can be on the Supreme Court, you can be a wife and a mother, and you can also be a faithful Christian. You can be all of those things in America and find success and happiness and a familial fulfillment as well, and that's a new sort of you can do this for example for women.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think women have kind of long struggled with the question of can you have it all, and she's the perfect example of that. And she would be the fifth woman if she's confirmed to sit on the court, the first with school-age children to serve on the Supreme Court. And these are all just incredible gains made for women, for the country, that should be celebrated. And apparently, for the left, they'll celebrate you if you believe with them or if you agree with them. And it's just ultimate hypocrisy. I think Amy Coney Barrett has been she's an ideal nominee, and I look forward to kind of seeing it all play out. It'll get ugly, and certainly uglier, but I think it'll hopefully pan out well.
Well, and with respect to a couple of female senators who were feeling the pressure, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, initially to say, no, don't make a nomination or don't hold the vote before the election, trying to middle the issue. Now, once Amy Coney Barrett was nominated, and the enthusiasm for Amy Coney Barrett, including in Republican ranks in general, they seem to start changing their tune. And, well, I said they shouldn't hold the vote, but if they were going to have the vote, then, I'm open-minded on Amy Coney Barrett. Very interesting to watch them sort of rhetorically pivot a bit upon her nomination.
It is. I do think, particularly with Susan Collins, she's facing a very tough election this cycle. So I imagine that has something to do with it. But I do also think we've seen so many senators, Republicans, men. I mean, my former boss, Senator Marco Rubio, come out swinging off the bat, defending her and her character and her integrity and the fact that she's a Christian. I mean, the majority of Americans identify as Christians. I don't think it'll bode very well to continue going after her on this front. She is relatable in that sense. So we'll see.
She is Olivia Perez-Cubas, director at Winning for Women, former media director for Senator Marco Rubio's presidential campaign. Olivia, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
She joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Safety. It's so important at your industrial facility. You need to keep your personnel safe and meet OSHA requirements. One problem with your ladders, platforms, or safety guards, and you could be facing costly fines. Vans Industrial helps you meet